I've been a full-time EMT for 9 months now, and I've carried my Leatherman Raptors for 9 months as well, so now I thought it was a good idea to do an updated review of the Leatherman Raptor Rescue. So the Leatherman Raptor Rescue are a pair of trauma shears that are basically a more premium version of the standard, somewhat disposable trauma shears you'd find for like $3 or in your company's supply room. It's packed with multiple features and can fold up into a compact form factor and easily be carried in the pocket. I've been a full-time EMT for 9 months now. I did IFT EMT work for around 7 months, and I recently finished my second month as a 911 EMT, and during those 2 months of being a 911 EMT, I've definitely saw a lot of use with these Raptors, and they have done their job. They do everything that they're advertised to do. I haven't necessarily used all the tools to their full extent, like the glass breaker, but in terms of the actual shears, these things are very reliable and rock solid, and I love how they easily fold up, and I personally carry them in my back right pocket. They're relatively flat, they're not uncomfortable when sitting, and they basically disappear in your pocket, but when I need them, I can easily grab them. And a little trick I did was I actually WD-40'd the pivot, so if I want to rapid deploy them just with one hand, I can easily do that, and boom, I got them deployed and I'm ready to cut clothing. In the last review, there were some people asking about the holster. That was my Urban EDC review. I simply carried these in my pocket as part of an Urban EDC carry. Even as an EMT, I do not use the holster. This is meant to be worn on your belt. I've seen plenty of other EMTs and paramedics carry these on their belt holster or even on one of their gear bag, and it's definitely not a bad option. So basically, you can carry the Raptor folded up in the holster like so, or you can carry them unfolded in this configuration like so. And in this configuration, they are obviously unfolded and you think that they'd just be ready to go, but as per the securing system, you actually have to press down on this tab in order to get them out, and it's actually a pretty solid lockup, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, but I personally don't like this configuration because you need to press down on the tab rather than just pulling the shears out of the holster, and so that's why I personally don't carry them in the holster, and I just simply carry them folded up in my back pocket, and I know how to rapidly deploy the Raptors with one hand and cut clothing immediately. So the shears themselves are rock solid. I don't know if the camera can really pick them up. They are a little dirty now. One side of the Raptor is fully serrated and it's very aggressive and very sharp. The other side is simply flat and very sharp, and this combination is rock solid. I've had to cut thick sweaters on unconscious patients. I've cut open blue jeans real easily. These are real easy against standard t-shirts and like dresses. The thick sweaters were probably the biggest challenge for these so far, and they cut them with ease, just like a hot knife through butter. In terms of the other tools on the Raptor, I haven't necessarily used them yet, at least. On the main part of the shears, there is this ring cutter back here. Of course, we do carry a dedicated ring cutter, and plenty of fire departments also carry their own ring cutters, but with the Raptor, you can use this to cut rings on fingers. Just get into the ring and they can easily cut soft metals like gold and silver. I've not had to use them yet, but I feel like this is a more convenient situation than the actual ring cutters we carry. And then the other tools when the Raptor is folded up, by far the most utilized tool on the Raptor shears is the oxygen tank wrench right here. This little square is meant to fit on perfectly to an oxygen tank cap and open and close the oxygen tank. At first, when I was going through EMT school, all of the oxygen tanks at school had a knob where you could easily twist it without an oxygen tank wrench, and I thought, oh, I probably will never use the wrench. But then in the field, not all oxygen tanks came with the low tab. In fact, it was more frequent that they didn't have the tab than they did have the tab, so this has come in really handy, especially if you don't necessarily have an O2 wrench on hand. Usually we like to tie an O2 wrench to a regulator so it's immediately there, but not all regulators will have one, so it's always good to have an O2 wrench on hand. And then within the same tool is the safety cutter or seatbelt cutter. I've yet to cut a seatbelt in the field, but this is razor sharp, and I have tested this on similar materials just for fun, and it definitely gets the job done. And while it is advertised as a seatbelt cutter, I feel like this would be a great alternative to the shears when cutting cutting off clothes. Like if you really need to cut something off real quickly in like one motion, you can easily get into the clothing and then pull it like that, and you don't have to worry about like cutting your patient since it is a safety cutter. The O2 wrench and the safety cutter are liner locking, which is awesome. Can be opened and closed with one hand. On the back, of course, there is that pocket clip that is very useful. As I said, I keep this in my back right pocket at all times, folded up. And then there's also a small little lanyard hole. And then lastly is the carbide glass breaker. While I have tested this for fun, it definitely does its job. I have yet to use the glass breaker in the field. And of course, if this was indicated, the fire department is usually already first on scene, and even PD usually carries some glass breakers. So if it was indicated, other responders will probably have already broken the windows before me. It's there if I need it, and if I ever have to break a window, I'm definitely gonna remember it for a while. I guess the last tool on the Raptor would be this little 5cm ruler on one of the shear blades. I haven't had to use it, but I can imagine it's helpful in a pinch when measuring a bandage or something, and then you're able to cut it with the shears. 9 months into my career, the Raptor has definitely seen a lot of use, and it has been very handy. I've had no issues with it. While I haven't necessarily utilized its entire tool set to its maximum capability, the tools that I have used are very useful and work as intended, and it's definitely a rock solid tool to have on duty. And that is my updated review as an EMT on the Leatherman Raptor trauma shears. They're definitely one of my favorite tools to carry on duty. It's definitely my most utilized tool I carry, and I definitely recommend these to any first responder or even just medical personnel. They're very useful, and even if you're not a first responder or healthcare worker, I feel like these are just a very useful tool in general. Maybe you have your own first aid or trauma kit, just like keep these in your car, and maybe if you're driving down the highway and you see someone that needs help, you have the tools to help them. So that's gonna do it for this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Follow me on my socials. If you really love the video, please consider leaving a super thanks in the tip jar below, and thanks for watching.